There's a rumor spreading like wildfire right now. Am I surprised that different websites and outlets are publishing it? Yes. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I am discussing the new cheating rumors around Aishwarya Rai and Abhishek Bachchan. This one's a doozy. My take might surprise you, so let's just get into it. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the hotchaipod, a podcast where we spill all of that sizzling Bollywood tea. I'm your host, Jazz, and as I said, we are going to get into the latest of the Aishwarya-Abhishek speculation. We are also going to deep dive into the richest 5 actresses in Bollywood, a list that just dropped this week. And we have a lot of other gossip on the dock. And stay tuned for teacup time at the end of this episode because we are going to analyze a certain celebrity's plastic surgery before and after. So should be very interesting. And yeah, let's get into it. So for the Bachchan of it all. So I've had people write me in, ask me about this, request me to speak about this. And I have truthfully been very hesitant because it's a pretty serious thing to put out there, and what if it's not true? Plus, it kind of seemed like maybe more smoke than fire. There was like a Reddit post very recently. I will say this was my second time seeing this rumor because I saw this rumor maybe 6 months ago. And again, what is the rumor? The rumor is that Abhishek Bachchan has cheated on Aishwarya Rai maybe 2 years ago with actress Nimrat Kaur. And where's this coming from? What's this backstory? So Abhishek and Nimrat, they worked on a film called Dasvi back in 2022. And you may be wondering, what are you even talking about? And so, well, it got 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's probably for the best that you don't even know what I'm talking about. Nimrat Kaur, if you don't know her, really, she was in this movie, The Lunchbox, and she was in a movie called Airlift with Akshay Kumar. And on that, I guess people were linking her to Akshay Kumar during that filming time, around 2018, 2019. Yes, I feel like that happens with all of Akshay Kumar's co-stars. Not really sure, what to make of it. But I feel like that's maybe what gave this rumor legs, is like, oh, she's done this before. So aside from that, and aside from a couple people writing on Reddit, I have to be honest, I'm not really seeing any real evidence. Like there is one interview of Abhishek, doing press for this movie Dasvi when it came out a couple years ago. And he's sitting with Nimrat Kaur and he's talking about Aishwarya Rai. But let me be crystal clear. That is not a smoking gun for people who were like, oh, he wouldn't be talking about her if he were cheating on her. And I know what some of you are thinking, like, oh, who could cheat on Aishwarya Rai? Like, especially Abhishek Bachchan. Like, he's so lucky to have her, right? Let me give you teacups a very harsh reality check, okay? Hot girls get cheated on too. Breaking news. Sometimes, especially if the guy is less hot, because maybe he's feeling insecure in the relationship, or suddenly he's getting a lot of attention because everyone's like, ooh, if she likes him, then he must be great, right? So let's just put that out there. Beyonce, Shakira, Deepika, Katrina, it happens to the best of us. It happens to the worst of us. So beware. So if you think you're playing it safe, think again. But on this topic, again, there's not really any hard evidence from what I've seen. If I'm wrong, or if you have something, or if you want to write in some blinds, of course, feel free, and I will maybe change my tune, and I will cover it. But until then, I feel a little bit bad, right? That this woman, Nimrat Kaur, she's getting huge amounts of hate online. And is it warranted, right? What if nothing happened? And some of the comments, of course, are hilarious, oh, finally Abhishek's dating in his league, and oh, he looks like that and he's cheating on our Miss World. Not okay, you guys, but it is hilarious. Also, I should mention the PR machines were hard at work. I don't know if it's damage control or whatever it might be, because right now, if you Google the keywords Abhishek and Nimrat, right, if you put in your search bar, you will mostly see search results for him talking about Aishwarya in his interview with Nimrat Kaur. That might be an attempt to minimize it, but just know, last time I checked, earlier today, that's what was coming up. Next on the docket, we are discussing the new list that just dropped. It was the top 5 richest actresses in India. So if you haven't already seen the list, you might be a little bit surprised to hear who's number one. Juhi Chawla. Okay, she's not only the richest actress, but she's the second richest actor, second only to Shah Rukh Khan. And I saw an article in the Economic Times, I think India, basically saying Juhi Chawla hasn't even been acting, so like what the hell is this list? Apparently, the majority of her net worth, which is, by the way, 4,600 crores, is from her stakes in Red Chillies, which she co-founded with Shah Rukh and Gauri Khan, and in the Kolkata Knight Riders, her IPL team. And then she's got real estate, whatever it might be. And this is not to discredit her, but isn't her husband like filthy rich? Like low key, isn't that kind of why they got married? I'm mostly kidding, but I actually read up a little bit on their love story and I was surprised. I found it very endearing, to be honest. I was reading the background, how they got together. So actually they had already been kind of running in the same circles before she even debuted in the movies. I guess they're mutual friends or whatever. And then they lost touch. And then they saw each other at a dinner party like a few years later. So she was already like a working actress. And he started pursuing her like crazy after this. She said that he would turn up everywhere she went. That's giving kaka Kieran. But I get it. She's like, oh, he sent me like a boatload of flowers, like literally a truckload of flowers to her. And I just want to say, this is how it's done. Okay. Nowadays we get on this app. People are like, oh, let's go for a coffee. Oh, let's meet at a park. Oh, I'll text you once a day. No deal. This is how you do romance. And also she kept this whole relationship under wraps. Like she got married and she kept it under wraps for 6 years because she didn't want to like stop getting film offers. She didn't want to like lose her spot as this top heroine. And let me just say, we love a supportive king, okay? Because Jay Mehta, a lot of guys would be so insecure and be like, oh, why are you hiding me? Like, what do you mean we can't go public? We're married. It's been so many years. So it sounds like she has one of the good ones. Coming in at number 2 with 850 crores is the queen, Aishwarya Rai herself. And I might argue that she's number 1. I know that's a very unpopular thing to say, but it's hard for me to kind of determine whether Juhi Chawla's investments were like entirely from her own earnings or kind of commingled with her husband's. But to me, being self-made, that's a very, very important achievement. So for me, that tops it. So yes, Aishwarya Rai has had a lot of hit films, of course, but most importantly, she has had a shit ton of money come to her by way of endorsements. So obviously her long-standing L'Oreal endorsement, Longines, De Beers Diamonds, Coca-Cola. I read that, back in the day, even for a day's work, she would charge 6 to 7 crores just for a day of like doing a commercial or something. So rake it in. Also, it's worth noting that she has invested in like different startups and stuff, but based on my research, it wasn't clear if those companies had really taken off. So just throwing that out there. So for anyone who says, oh, she married Abhishek Bachchan like for the Bachchan money, take a seat. Okay, she's laughing to the bank. Priyanka Chopra is number 3 on this list, which maybe surprised me, but I guess, she's been getting paid in US dollars between Quantico and now the Citadel show, which is very high budget, or she's had these other movies in between, but she's also been the face of Max Factor, the face of Bulgari, so she's going to make millions of dollars off of that too. But I don't think her investment portfolio gets enough credit. So I did a little bit of pitch book stalking on Priyanka Chopra and where she's invested or, been an angel investor. So Bumble is one of them. She was kind of an early angel investor, which, is the dating app. She's also on the cap table for Apartment List, Olapop, other like wellness and food companies, right? Who are umbrellas, who maybe like launch other companies. She did have that restaurant in New York, but that's obviously closed down. And by the way, Olapop, it's like a healthy soda company. I'm addicted. I don't even know if it's like that healthy for me, but you guys should see my fridge. It is stocked with Olapop. So sponsor me, you guys. Send me some free drinks. Rounding out this list in the top 5 are Alia Bhatt and Deepika Padukone. So Alia, of course, has had a number of hit films, but also she has been dabbling with productions. So she started a production company. She had helped create Darling. She's now helped create Jigra, so that might be a loss. But she also has made some real business moves. So we know she sold a majority stake of that company that she started at Amama to Reliance. It was like a baby maternity clothing. Actually, I'm not super sure. But she's also dabbled in other investments. So she had invested about 5 crores in Nykaa, and I guess since then it's about 10x her investment. So last week I was watching her interview with Kareena Kapoor on that show What Women Want, and Kareena was trying to imply that Ranbir Kapoor is more business minded than Alia, because she's like, oh, which of you is more savvy with investing in business? And Alia was like, it's me. And damn straight, Kareena, why don't you take some notes, okay? And maybe you'll make it on this list too, because Kareena Kapoor, not on this list. Not a businesswoman, not on this list. Married Saif Ali Khan, ton of money, so, love that for her. And finally, rounding out this list, we have the beautiful Deepika Padukone. Of course, she has her hit films. She's been in the industry for a while, but she also has endorsements like Louis Vuitton. But what you might not know is that she has been a major startup investor. Of course, she started her own skincare line. I'm not super sure if that's profitable yet. It's apparently very overpriced, and I don't know if people like the products. But she has been investing like in the pet space, gig economy. She's in aerospace. Okay. So I thought this list and the research was very interesting, and I hope they drop the 5 richest actors soon. Moving on to people who might not be so rich. So there have been serious rumors that Dharma and Karan Johar have been having financial troubles. There were a number of rumors, from the Ambanis to Sarigama, like all of these guys were buying some sort of majority stake in Dharma Productions. Nothing was really verified, so I wasn't really sure about reporting on it. Plus, Karan Johar has said in the past that he would never sell off his father's legacy. So, I guess desperate times, desperate measures. This week, we got news that about 50% of the ownership has been sold to the Poonawalla Group, who apparently, if you know other Poonawalla, Natasha Poonawalla, his wife, they run the largest vaccine company in the world. So, cha-ching. So they bought 50% of Dharma, and yeah, that's not really a majority stake per se, but obviously there's going to be changes, right? Even if Karan Johar retains creative control, the other stakeholders will have a say as to, what the business is doing right or wrong, or where they should be investing their dollars. So Dharma obviously was in trouble, and it does beg the question, how did he land here? You think Karan Johar, you think Coffee with Karan, you think these huge movies, Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham, right? And you think like, you must have so much money. But I feel like we could make a full episode maybe dissecting where things have gone wrong. My 2 cents here is that he really doubled down on this whole Nepoverse. One, after Kangana Ranaut came on Coffee with Karan and kind of called him out, said he was like the flag bearer of nepotism, right? But 2, he was getting trolled a lot. Ali was getting trolled a lot after a lot of the Sushant stuff had come up, rest in peace. He was very much of the attitude of like, this is a family business and people are more interested in star kids. I mean, he said that on the last season of Coffee with Karan. You can go back and check. It's a double-edged sword because he starts overpaying these nepos. These nepos are not talented for the most part, and he starts losing money. Actually, at a roundtable recently, he mentioned the movie Kill that he made. He originally, whoever he had in mind, he was like, they're asking for these crazy fees. It's almost the same price as the budget of the film. So he couldn't do that. So he cast Lakshay in it instead, this outsider. And this movie became kind of a hit, but it got a lot of critical acclaim. So he was saying like, this is maybe the nature of the business and how it should go. The other thing I might point out is like kind of along the way, I feel like maybe he lost his artistic vision. Listening a little bit too much to the noise, to the chatter, to social media. I remember in recent years, he said that, he was embarrassed of like Kuch Kuch Hota Hai or something like that. And I want to be like, don't be so insecure. At the time, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai was huge and iconic, and it was so dear to so many people. And just because like Gen Zers go on TikTok and like dissect your movie scene by scene and say like, oh, nowadays that doesn't make any sense, or it's so old fashioned, or it's patriarchal. It doesn't take away from the success that the movie was. And in my view, that's probably just the tip of the iceberg for what we're seeing. I was hearing some news about the Real Housewives or the Fabulous Lives and Wives of Bollywood, that show that's on Netflix that's produced by Dharma. So whatever it's called, I'll be honest, I tried to watch season 2 and it was rough. Okay. I could not get through it, so I did not watch it. I watched season 1. And yes, it was like a little bit cringy, but season 2 was just like, they were almost too self-aware, right, about the cameras. But then my mom said that this season, season 3, is better. What I did see floating around was a couple of clips, and then there were these news articles that came out. So a few bits of tea on these Real Housewives. So this season, Riddhima Kapoor, aka Ranbir Kapoor's sister, joined the cast. And there's this clip of Ranbir Kapoor kind of introing his sister onto the show. And he's kind of negging her, okay? He's like, oh, don't be fooled by Riddhima, being so polite and her fake accent. And she was never interested in Bollywood, so how did she land up on this show? First of all, if my brother goes on some kind of show or some kind of stage and he starts making fun of me, he won't be celebrating his next birthday. Capiche? How about you just go out there, you be supportive? I mean, Ranbir has had the limelight in this family for the past how many years since he debuted, whereas Riddhima has kind of been like in the background, in the shadows, and being supportive. Also, what's interesting is that comment of her not being interested in Bollywood. And one of the other wives on the show was like, how come you never join the movies? You're so beautiful, which she is very beautiful. Hello, elephant in the room. She was not allowed to join the movies, okay? Because of Rishi Kapoor. It's a Kapoor tradition, rather. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say the only reason that she's even on this reality show is because of Rishi Kapoor's passing. That might sound crass, but it's the truth. Obviously, she never was in the limelight before that. She even said that she wasn't allowed to go visit her dad on film sets while he was still working or alive. So like, he really didn't want her anywhere near it. And that's true of the whole Kapoor Khandan. And it's the same with the Bachchans. So Shweta and Navya are not allowed to be in the movies, but the guys, Abhishek Bachchan, Agastya Nanda, they are allowed to be in the movies. So it just feels like this double standard. And before you guys come at me and say like, what about Kareena Kapoor? What about Karishma Kapoor? Well, their mother, Babita, had left their father a long time ago. And I'm pretty sure their father had kind of stopped being involved with them, or at least financially. And so they didn't really care what he thought. And so they debuted in the movies, which good for them. So no, Riddhima could not have just had a Bollywood career, and good for her for enjoying this new limelight. Also, side note, all of the wives were talking about who they thought was like the hottest actor in Bollywood right now, and they all said Ranbir Singh. I think one of them said John Abraham, which, good choices. Very good choices, I must say. The last tidbit is that there were a couple instances of Mahip Kapoor bringing up her daughter Shanaya Kapoor and her Bollywood debut. So she said very recently that Shanaya will be debuting soon. You guys, I have been avoiding discussing this. You may have even seen this on my Instagram polls where I was like, do you guys mind if I not talk about Shanaya? However, this is a good time to bring up plastic surgery speculation now that her new debut movie has been announced. So if you didn't know, Shanaya was initially slated to debut in a movie with Gurfateh Pirzada, who was in Call Me Bae, and then Lakshay, who was in Kill. And apparently the movie got shelved. This was a couple years ago. And Mahip said that Shanaya was traumatized by this whole thing. Seems like one of the few times that Dharma has exercised very good judgment in recent years. Like I watched all of these fashion shows this month, right? All of these models walking in all these shows. And you cannot tell me that there are not other gorgeous faces who could be debuting. But I digress. Now, Shanaya was supposed to be debuting in a movie with Mohanlal, a Telugu Malayalam movie, but now I'm seeing that that's got shelved. I don't know. I saw some rumors about that, and I don't see a release date for it since last year. However, a couple weeks ago, I saw an announcement that she is going to be in a movie opposite Vikrant Massey titled Aankhon Ki Gustakiyan. If they subject us to her trying to do Kathak, I will riot. Honestly, it just sucks because actors who are so talented like Vikrant Massey have to get paired up with actresses like Shanaya Kapoor to do these types of movies, to get this type of big banner support. But you never know. Maybe this movie will get shelved too. So for Teacup Time today, we are diving into the Shanaya Kapoor of it all, before and after potential plastic surgery. And just as an FYI, this is all speculation. This is all for entertainment purposes. None of this is verified, just as a legal note. But for what it's worth, I have seen a lot of plastic surgeons review this topic on Shanaya, on other actresses. And as I've mentioned before, I personally have a very strong interest with the whole before and after surgery thing since I was pretty young. I'm in LA after all. So if we examine Shanaya's before and after, to me, a rhinoplasty seems very obvious nose job. It's obviously a lot smaller. In upper bleph, it makes the eyes look much bigger, widens it, gives you more space on the eyelid. Jawline slimming seems pretty drastic before and after. She had a very wide jaw before. Now it seems to be much smaller in size. I'd also add in there lip filler, if not a lip flip, but I don't think it's a lip flip. I think it's just lip filler. Helps balance out the features, make everything more cohesive. I'm unsure about cheek filler because maybe, the smaller jaw and the bigger eyes are just giving the illusion that, the cheeks have been lifted or plumped up. So it's hard to say. And teacups, you might be thinking to yourself, wow, I'm so ugly. I want to get something done. Look, even me, sometimes I look at all these procedures and I'm like, maybe I should do something. But stay strong, okay? Because a lot of the work that we see only looks good in photos. When people are talking or they're interacting, or in this case, when they go into movies or they're dancing, it just becomes a little bit obvious and it's a little bit of a slippery slope. Earlier, I made a reference to Shanaya Kapoor's dancing and her Kathak. And it's because I saw a truly haunting video of her trying to do Kathak to Aankhon Ki Masti, Rekha's very famous song. And while she's dancing, she can barely move her lips. She can barely move her face. Okay. The whole point of dance, especially Kathak, is to express and to convey these heavy emotions and expressions and make you feel something. I would even argue it's the whole point of life. But unfortunately, you can run the risk of this very frozen or kind of unnatural, uncanny valley expression that doesn't do much for you if you go too far. So just beware, everybody, okay? And with that, teacups, we wrap up another episode. Stay tuned next week because we will be reviewing the new Kajol and Kriti Sanon movie coming to Netflix titled Dopati. I don't know if it'll be a spoiler or non-spoiler review. I'm still going to decide. So don't miss that. And if you did like this episode, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, whatever you might want to do. And until next time, bye.